How to become a better leader? That's a question that is obviously important to all of us. I'd like to share some findings and some learnings from the past 20 years of trying. Why 20 years? Pretty much exactly 20 years ago, I started my first job in a supermarket. I was responsible for replenishing the drinks. Not all the drinks, only the glass bottles. The plastic bottles was another person's responsibility. So a rather tightly managed environment. And from then on, I was trying to broaden my horizon. Later on, went into consulting, had the experience of creating and leading the first teams, gained more responsibility and so on. 20 years later, I end up being the CEO of an e-commerce company with yet another leadership challenge, namely indirect leadership, leading leadership teams in order to create an impact. Turns out the chapters, the topics that I encountered on these 20 years have always been around two topics, namely how to lead others and how to lead myself. So the learnings that I want to share around the 20 years are around those two topics. I'm going to share 3 learnings about leading others, 3 learnings about leading ourselves, and then we will still have some time to discuss and to see your points of view on those topics. So let's jump into it. Leading others. I think leadership is a constant balance. A balance on the one side of providing a really clear frame, clear guidance, clear responsibilities, clear boundaries for people. On the other side, to balance it with, provide for lots of freedom within this frame. Freedom for new ideas, for enablement of people, for creativity, fresh ideas, all those things. So we have the what on the one hand side and the why, where to tell people clearly what do we want to achieve and why do we want to achieve that. And on the other hand, balance it with lots of freedom to give responsibility to people to tell us how they intend to achieve that. And we can call this freedom in a frame because it's two things. And freedom and frame, in my perspective, is not just two conflicting opposites. It's rather, I believe they are dependent on each other. Like if you have all the freedom, no frame, we end up in pure chaos. If we have all the frame, no freedom at all, we end up in micromanagement. Both obviously not beneficial for becoming a better leader. So I think it's the constant balance in everything we do that keeps that balance and that brings us forward. Second, all accomplished, smart, brainy leaders clearly believe in their intellect as being important. Of course, we think we accomplish a lot with our brains, and we think, therefore, the most important tool we have in leadership is between our ears. It's not though. I believe the most important tool for leadership is not between our ears, but it is actually our ears. So let's stop outsmarting our people and let's stop trying to be the smartest person in the room, and let's therefore start leading with questions. And when we ask questions, let's have the courage of really listening from a humble perspective, from a learning, from an open, honestly open learning perspective, and see what we can learn there. And the experience that I did is, I was quite surprised always how capable teams are. So again, it comes back to freedom and the frame. If you have the ears and the courage and the humble position of curiosity, then you discover how good the ideas actually are and how it moves the business forward to allow for this freedom in the frame. And that's what we need our ears for, much more than what we need our brains for. Third learning, concentrate on what you can influence. And this sounds very easy, trivial, but if you think about it, it's not. Just think how much time we waste on a daily basis with our teams complaining about mean co-workers, about the weather, about the global issues, about politics, about the legal environment, about economic topics, all that stuff. And we cannot influence it, and yet we waste so much time on it. So what if we invested our valuable calories not in topics that are out there anyways, and focus on things that we can really influence? that are important to us and that are in our control. And if we move those topics just 1 inch forward, then we would accomplish much more for our companies than by constantly complaining about things we cannot control anyways. And think about your meetings in real life. Probably your meetings are not as much different than the meetings I have. You start like, how can we increase sales? And the discussion very quickly is around, the mean competitor does this and this and that and all that stuff. Can we influence it? No. So what can we discuss about? Well, we could try some, but then there is our colleagues in the art department and they are like this and like that. Can we influence it? Probably no. So what can we do? Well, we could work on our loyalty program, do better profiling of our customers and try some more cross-selling. Yeah, that is something we can influence. Let's talk about that. Let's go into that. So it sounds almost trivial, but I believe there is lots into it. Concentrate on what we can really influence, and then bear and handle all the rest with a certain dignity. So, switching chapters, what can we learn about leading ourselves? The first one should not come a big surprise for everybody here. Know thyself. Get to know and get to understand yourself. Do 360s, get a coach, do personality reports and personality tests. Get to understand yourself. And if you think you're already very far in knowing who you yourself are, it's probably just the beginning of the journey. So there's always much more to go. Go deeper, see what drives you, see what motivates you, see what makes you angry, see what makes you react in a certain way in situations, and discover why that is the case. Discover your principles, discover your values. And why is that important at all, to know your values? Well, at certain times, the waters get rough on us. And if we face rough headwinds, and if negative emotions and self-doubt and fear and uncertainty start creeping in, then those very values we just discovered, they might be all we have as an orientation in such situations. So knowing our values and then acting on our values and living our values offers the orientation that we need in such situations, gives us the confidence that we're doing the right thing, and makes us more authentic as leaders. All of that being important for becoming a better leader, all of that being important in situations where we have rough headwinds. And then if we walk the talk, and if we talk a lot about our values, but then live our values and act upon our values a lot, something strange happens, because you feel more and more something special inside yourself. And that is yourself. The more we act and we live on our values, the more we feel this thing inside that is our true selves. And last but not least, let's be very thankful for the little gifts of life. Let's be grateful. And let's acknowledge that we have had much luck. Just the fact that we're sitting here at Harvard Business School is an indicator that we have been lucky a lot. Already starting from the time when we were born and the place where we were born. Take me as an example, an Austrian. If I had been born 40 years earlier, and that is just a deviation of like 2% on the basis of 2019, I would have ended up in the middle of World War II. Or if I had been born only 2,000 kilometers south, again, a tiny deviation, I would be sitting in the middle of the Sahara Desert. Definitely not here in Boston today. So the message is clear. We have been lucky a lot. We should stop being jealous of our neighbor's car. We should stop thinking that we are entitled to our co-workers' promotion and income and all that stuff, because we are not. We don't deserve these things per nature, and we're not entitled to those things per nature. In fact, I believe life does not owe us anything. It's actually the other way around. We should ask ourselves what we owe to life. Thank you very much.